Nucor Road allocation area, it makes more sense to have it be tied to Nucor Towers because they really are different companies. We have you, the RDC, have an obligation to extend water along 500 from where it is now, which is right to the front door of Nucor Towers. If that land to the east develops, we're in an obligation from Indian American Water to run a line down to that eastern parcel. And so we're happy that Nucor Towers purchased that and not someone else, because we can work with them on that. But that extension of that line would be probably $800 to $1 million to get it on down all the way. So by moving this parcel into the Nucor Towers allocation area, it will help you, if that ever occurs, it will help you pay for that water line extension. And also the idea is that if Nucor Towers owns the property, we should be capturing their taxes to benefit projects that would relate to them and not to just things in general out there. So that's this resolution then starts a process, and you've been through this before. Back in 2023, we had one allocation area, and we pulled the Nucor Towers parcels out and called that Nucor Towers. We pulled the Nucor Coatings site where the new plant is out and called that Nucor Coatings. And so you have been through this once before, a couple of years ago. Your adoption of this declaratory resolution kicks off the process. Then you would have a public hearing at your January meeting. And in order to have a confirmatory resolution, in between your meeting today and your meeting in January, the Plan Commission has to weigh in on it. The county commissioners have to also weigh in on that. And then after you're done, the county commissioners have to weigh in again and approve it. So it's a lot of steps. And again, but the idea is we have an obligation on that water that we want to try to have funding for. This would give us an additional TIF if Nucor Towers builds anything. If they don't build anything over there, we just sit tight, but we'll have this parcel in our allocation area. If not, it stays in the overall Nucor Road allocation area. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for DT about it?
Move to approve resolution 2025-1.
Have a motion, have a second?
Second.
A second from Gary. Any discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
same sign. Here's one that I've started signing.
Okay.
Along those lines, I guess I would comment that to be a little proactive on this, which is what is already been discussed by DT. The Nucor guys, as far as I know, and I've chatted with them, they don't, the Nucor structure guys, I should say, don't have any plans right now. But I see some of the other things that they're doing with that business, and it wouldn't surprise me that they would decide to expand at this location at Crawfordsville, and that the Midwest part of it is advantageous to a lot of that material being used. So having said that, and this is my last meeting here, I would advise the commission to, at some point sooner rather than later, start laying out plans to get an engineering firm. You know, Ryan and his guys did a great job with the last one, and I see no reason why they couldn't do that. It should be simpler than the last one was, but we all saw that especially John and I, as we started trying to expedite that, once they decide to do something, they want it. And so if there would be
Just because we sat and waited an hour, year and a half on them to say that.
How many times has that happened? It's happened
Knew it was gonna happen.
several times.
Every
So
time.
I would advise to maybe try to find some money to start some engineering on that. DT just said it was $800 to $1 million. That's what we saved from not doing it this last time. So is that a good number, or is it twice that number? I mean, that's the question. So some finances maybe to support the engineering, and then some ways to come up to pay for it when they decide to pull the trigger on that. So,
Ron, are you talking about the frontage of Nucor there on 500? The water line?
yes.
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 So the original property, we already have that designed as phase two.
Okay,
I believe that they did buy additional property and that would have to be added in. So it would just be a very minor
right,
revision from what I understand of where the plans currently stand.
yep, yep. All the
So
more
we should have a
reason-
design already for it.
Yep, all the more reason to have Ryan's company proceed with it whenever the money's there to move forward, so. Thanks, Ryan. Ryan, I didn't see your picture up there on the screen. I was wondering who was chatting, so
I was a couple minutes late. Sorry about that.
that's all right.
I do have a question.
Sure.
And I realize this is a very difficult, probably one, is do we have any way to quantify the return on the investment for this entire area? I mean, I realize that comes down to things like, I mean, I know what Nucor does for our Crawfordsville schools, and I'm assuming does for the others, and all those sorts of things that would be very difficult to bring in. But is there any kind of simple way of saying, okay, we have made this investment and here's what we can see? Here's the number of jobs, residents, anything like that. And again, I realize that that's a huge thing, but I'm just curious if we've ever tracked anything like that, or, you know, what we are assuming the return will be. Just a question. I'm not
No, I think that's
doubting why we're doing it.
Right,
but-
right.
Yeah, no problem there, Rex. I think that's a good question. I don't know, I mean, we could ask the same question about Temper, what's happened there, and what, it's, as you say, it's obvious some of the value that these investments have brought us and the companies and what they do for us, but is there a solid way to lay out an outline that says, here's what some of the tax revenue is, and here are the jobs that's supplied? I think there's going to be some simple things done like that if we wanted to, but just basically justified from my perspective has been on some of the taxes that they'll pay over the next 50 years, I think is more than pays for the investments that we have without all the other things. But if someone wants to take that on and try to quantify what that means, it's not a bad thing.
I guess we've just talked about the millions of dollars of investment and the number of jobs we've created, but nobody's ever said, I mean, we've taken into account the quality of the jobs and the income per job, but as far as what that exact dollar amount, that's probably something a guy ought to. You just make assumptions. You're creating jobs and investment in the county that it's a good thing. So I don't know what it would take to get to that point.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, because especially with what's coming down in property taxes and what's happening there, and our lack of housing and places for people to live, and that right now, all of that tax money is going to go away and go to some other county. So those questions probably ought to be addressed at least.
It'll help with future investments, so.
Are there numbers already kind of, boilerplate that says 1,000 jobs at this pay scale does this with revenues?
No, and that's the thing. This is not a simple endeavor if you want to value it, because it goes, multiple levels. Like you said, we created this many jobs. How much housing do we have? How many of those stayed in Montgomery County or came to Montgomery County versus a different county? When we fleshed out the utilities, did we attract a business that otherwise never would have looked at us? Do we get to add in all the economic benefits of it? As you start to add in additional people, did we draw a Walmart, a Meijer, a Chick-fil-A? Do we get to add all those in and those jobs that they brought for those that previously weren't employed? I mean, you can just continue down the rabbit hole indefinitely. So there's no simple way to do it. I wish there were.
Maybe the simplest thing I would ask for is that we put this 800 to $1 million in. Here is the likely payback. You know, is it in X number of years of tax revenue, it's covered? Is it, you know, if only adding one more section to Nucor with 100 jobs I mean, something of that sort. And again, I fully support it, but just feel like, as Gary said, everything that's going on around with the taxes, it would be wonderful just to have that one line of our investment returns this fast, so.
And, you know, I'd be happy
Remember how we
to
have things set
put
up
together
too,
something for you if you want
know.
that has a series of assumptions. And then you can refine those and tell us, yeah, we want to include that assumption. We don't want to include this one.
And the way we have things set up, the new growth pays for the new water line. You know, that agreement with the person that's putting it in, their taxes are gonna pay for that water line. So it's not although yes, it's, as Jeff's annual statement shows, that additional revenue, but it's a fraction of what that $1 million of income tax or property tax would be, and it's paying for that. So, but no, that's not a bad question, honestly. And as things have shaken out, and the things that we've done, that we've accomplished, you know, you're starting to get to the point where you could actually get some real numbers of, okay, how many did they hire? What wage did they do? You know, just instead of what they told us. You know, that's not a bad.
Jeff, have you in some of your other communities, or TK's been involved in this stuff too, have you ever ran some kind of a analysis of returns on this stuff?
Not beyond, you know, what we're required to do, which is very minimal. The economic impact is normally skirted just because of these decisions of, well, how far do we want to assume? You know, and the big thing with yours is going to be the infrastructure that you put in the ground. You know, what future benefit is it going to derive?
That's true.
So most people don't measure it beyond, you know, like you say, at the annual presentation, we talk about the tax revenues. When we issue bonds, we talk about the tax revenues versus the cost to repay the bond service. But as to the downstream economic impact, it's normally just assumed that we are fleshing out for future growth, increased employment, housing, income tax numbers, but don't quantify it. But I'm certainly happy to develop something for you if you want to pursue that.
I see that Cheryl, that you're on here. Have you done any of these type of evaluations before?
What you're describing is called an economic impact study. And as Jeff has already alluded to, the issue with those, they make a lot of assumptions because they use national standards for multiplier effect. And so you have to then assume for every dollar of new construction that an investment that you bring in is going to bring X number of people into your community. It's going to bring X number of new homes into your community, X number of students increased into your school systems. They're fine if you accept them for what they are, and that it's a theorized report of what the level of investment you're making into a particular area, how it may pay off in the future. But as Jeff already said, they're very complicated, and people can poke holes in them because they are using multiplier effects as part of that future projection. They can be informational, but I always caution communities when they go down this path to only look at it theoretically, because as Jeff has said, you have to make a number of assumptions with that kind of information. There's all kinds of programs out there that do just that. You plug in the information and it spits out a report, and then it spits out twice the size of a report listing all of the assumptions that it makes. So it's really up to you all whether you want to do something like that or not, but you just have to take it for what it is. that it's a theorized report of the investment that you've made with these assumptions, and this will be the outcome of that investment as how it pays off in the future.
Well, I think that, being as the question's been asked, and I think it's a good question, if there was a way, Cheryl, that maybe you and JP could put some, put some bullet items back and forth, maybe copy Tom on them and work through the assumptions, and maybe get to an outline at some point, and I'm not saying in the next 2 weeks, but something over the next few months that says, here's a way to of looking at it using some of the data points that both of you have brought up. I think it would be good to have that. I mean, once you have a document and an outline like that, you have it forever, and so you can use it to evaluate things. And that's somewhat, as John was saying, it's been done before. Anytime it goes before the council for tax abatements, all that stuff is taken into consideration, but it's really at a high level, and it's not so much as been validated later that I know about, so.
Well, I think also the opportunity to use that information as a selling point, we're gonna have an opportunity, it sounds like, to help potentially support some of this housing growth, new housing growth, and we're probably gonna get questioned on how RDC's role in that, with some of the way regulations are, but you got 1,000 new people living here. That's the game. I mean, that's where the real money's at. We've known that forever, or we believe that.
Well, the key will be what it looks like in 5 and then 10 years.
Right.
So, but there's nothing wrong with having some kind of an outline, so, okay.
I think it's a good question. And some kind of a high altitude report at least says to the taxpayer, we addressed that question. What's this doing for Montgomery County in general, besides just the commercial side? I think it says volumes that we considered it.
Yeah, as tight as tax money is anymore, was it a good decision? Okay, thank you. With that, we can keep going here. DT, did you have other things?
Just the assignment to CSX. So you all, the RDC entered into an agreement with CSX during the construction of the water line because we had to deal with that. And so now that the project is done, we're required to assign the agreement to Indian American Water because they now operate that line. And if somebody needs to get under that rail line, it's going to be Indian American Water, not you. And so that this agreement that you have before you merely is an assignment of that to Indian American Water. Indian American Water has already signed saying they'll accept that obligation. Your agreement with Indian American Water obligated them to do that anyway. So this is really a formality that we need to approve and then pass on. Unless you want to remain responsible for all of that, which I recommend against.
I recommend signing it too, so. Right here, DT, or? Okay, so we need a motion to approve this, and then I'll sign it.
Make a motion to approve the assignment of Indian American Water to CSX Transportation.
Second.
Motion, and we have a second from Rex. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Long time coming on that one. Anything else, DTAC? Meeting schedule, that's not you probably, though.
That's the next thing.
I put that on there to
Yes,
see if you
good
wanted to
question.
keep your schedule as this year into next year, your second Tuesday at 11 o'clock, or if you wanted to change it.
It's up to the board members. This seems to work. I mean,
Great for me.
okay,
Yeah, this is help.
Is that okay? Okay,
okay, simple enough.
that's all I needed, thanks.
And we will track how many more times in 2026 I beat Julie here, assuming I get reappointed.
Absolutely.
So
She is ahead of
Well,
you
this
a
was
lot.
one.
No, I think I had 3 this year, so I think I'm really increasing. I can give you that I do believe that is a 100% increase. So.
I'd make a motion, we keep this 26 schedule the same.
There's a motion, a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, motion passes. Let's go ahead and move into reports. And JP, do you have anything for us today to go over?
Yeah, just a couple of brief things. The tax deficiencies for Temper and Nucor have been calculated and then sent based on their tax bills paid. The ledger distributed by the auditor's office does not yet have the next set of debt payments in it, nor does it have the fall tax distribution and the tax deficiency payments. Those would pretty much wash out. One would equal the other over time. And the only other thing I have to report on is based on the declaratory resolution you just adopted, we'll be preparing a tax impact statement as part of that process for your public hearing before the underlying taxing units to show what the impact is to them.
Okay.
That I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I might just say Jeff worked with Lisa Lee and I on the resolution you just passed. We appreciate Jeff's help as always, but he also jumped in on that. So Jeff, thank you.
Thank you.
Mindy, do you have anything financial-wise? I think I saw the report earlier.
Buyer's auditor, speaking to Jeff's point, we have not yet received the deficiency payments yet, so that's the reason those aren't on there. And we are working on settlement. We don't have that done yet. And once we have that, then we will have the monies to pay the bonds, and then those will also show up on the report. So that should be updated for January. If I get it earlier, we will send it out earlier to the group. But that's why those aren't on there.
Okay, all right, thank you. Ryan, do you have anything for us today?
Yeah, just a quick update on the Nucor intersection improvement, the overpass bridge. We submitted stage 3 to the county, and the environmental documents being finalized, final signatures by the feds. So that should be approved shortly. So we're still on track for the February 7th of 2026 letting. So that's good news. The water line that we previously discussed, we're working on finishing the punch list. They just had a couple of items they wanted to verify before they told us for us to go out there and check one more time. And then we should have the final. It should be a very, very small cost to finish that project. No additional cost. It's already in the budget. Don't worry. But one more pay app for them, and that should be it.
Okay. Just from your experience, Ryan, I spoke earlier and said I thought that this next segment of the water expansion should be much easier than the one you just finished up. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, especially if we start earlier than later. We started a little behind the 8 ball as far as time went on the other one. So it was a very fast-paced project.
Well, I don't think there's any railroads to deal with that segment of it either, but
Yeah,
yeah.
railroads and hopefully fewer utilities.
You work well under pressure, Ryan. That doesn't mean we have to do that to you all the time.
I see some
Well, I
gray
do
in his
want
beard,
to say thank you to you, Ron. It's been great working with you. You've always had my back on everything I need, and that goes for the rest of the RDC board there. You guys have been great to work with, and I appreciate everything you've done this year for me to help move these projects along for you guys.
And we had a few emails and things going back and forth later at night over the weekend about trying to get stuff done, but you guys did a great job.
Yep.
With that, Cheryl, do you have anything that you want to bring up today?
Just an update on the CSX Select Sites certification application. I'm turning that in today. It's been a pretty lengthy process, but what it will do is they'll review the application, and it's for the Wiley Connell Site 1, which is next to Timber, our biggest shovel-ready parcel that we have. And they have varying levels of certification. So they'll rate it, and then we'll find out what the level of certification is, and then they will market that or help market that all across the country as a rail access site. Couldn't have done it without Mike Davis and Mark Bonwell. They were fantastic to work with because of a lot of the requests that application was asking for. Same goes for Lana and Ryan, helped provide some additional information in addition to utilities and other folks. I got new aerials from Sergeant McVeigh with the Crawfordsville Police Department. He's the drone pilot. And so we were able to go out there and get some new aerials that we could submit. And I've already created new marketing aerials for that. They're already uploaded, but that will help on this application too. So big shout out to the county staff for helping with a lot of the data that we needed for this particular application. So I'll keep you guys in the loop on what's going on.
Okay, thank you. TK, do you have anything? DT?
Yeah, Cheryl also worked with Cargill on a tax abatement request they had, and you may have heard about it, but this morning the council did approve the abatement, real estate tenure tax abatement on real estate. Cargill they've been great partners to work with, but they're going to move their regional office from Lafayette to Linden. They're going to make some substantial improvements to their internal processes to process grain, get trucks through quicker, have some better efficiencies. So it's not as big as some of the projects you guys have worked on, but it is a great strengthening of a current employer up on the north end of the county.
Good.
So that approval was done by the council. Gary and his friends this morning.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move on into claims, and this one is not near as big as what we've seen before, but we have a total of $14,917.62. The breakdown goes into DT's firm, $588. Peters and Franklin, $27.59. Ryan with the Lockmuller folks, $11,207. And then the BCS management fee for $362. Again, $14,917.62 are the claims. I'd look for a motion to approve. Okay, we have a motion, and a second was Gary. Okay, any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. With that, we'll wrap it up here. I guess one thing I would like to say is, as I ease off of this committee, is that I can't even remember for sure if it's been 12 or 13 years that I've been on it. But this committee, the purpose, the structure, the things have really come a long way. It was first put in place just to support the sewer plant out there. It was a requirement that had to exist, and so it was done out of necessity. And there were a few things that we touched on month by month, and sometimes we didn't have meetings for months, but the committee has come a long way. The committee has accomplished a lot with the folks that's on the board and the past members, and certainly with our support group that we have. It's just, I stand in awe of the things that we've accomplished here, and I think I leave it in good hands regardless who the next folks are. So thank all of you, and the meeting's over. All right, go ahead. I'm not in charge anymore. Just like that, I'm done.
saying, am I on? Ron, on behalf of the school board, Southmont School Board, we'd like to thank you for your commitment and effort. And since I've been on this, I think 4 or 5 years, I'm not sure, your ability to educate me on the importance of it and to understand some of the things that I previously didn't. We just want to thank you, and I think this job, let me go on record to say this, is probably as unthankful as a school board member. So I want to say thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
No, I definitely appreciate the opportunity to work with you and learn from you. I do think you would be a great example of of what Nucor has kind of developed and given to our community. So I appreciate your leadership in all sorts of aspects and just how much you give to our community. I had no clue the amount of time that Ron Dickerson gave to our community until I got on this committee. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, wait, I'm going to say something. Ron, you've done a great job, and I've done this for a long time, and I've seen few people do as good a job as you've done. But what was most reassuring about your participation is when you and John Frey would go out and meet with prospects, I felt better knowing you were there.
Take that for what it's worth.
I figured the two of you would do fine, and you did, and you did great things.
Bad cop going
Yeah.
on a few times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
Ron was not.
Ron was the quiet, straight man, and John was the more talkative guy. But the results have spoken for themselves. So it doesn't matter what I think, but what you've accomplished, the commission, has been really, really amazing, and it's really come a long way from just 5-6 years ago.
Well, John's the one that drove the pickup truck across the field at 45 mile an hour at times, so.
He couldn't say no after that, could he?